Rock on the Range 2018, and we're here with one of, I think, everybody's favorite new bands, Greta Van Fleet, Jake, Kiszka. Is it Kiszka?
Yeah, you got it. Perfect. First try.
Yeah, nice. Greta Van Fleet is the band everybody's talking about, and when we first heard you, we were like, well, you get the Zeppelin comparison.
Yeah.
And then it was like you dig a little deeper and you go, oh my God, why are all these guys have the same last name? It's you, you are the guitarist, your twin brother, the singer, and then the younger brother, the bassist, and then who's on drums?
It's Daniel Wagner. And see, Danny actually Sam and Danny went to preschool together because they're the same ages, so we've known him since like forever as well, so yeah.
So did you guys have, and you're from Frankenmuth, Michigan.
Yep.
And so now with all this success, have you looked at Frankenmuth and looked at the most ballin' house in Frankenmuth and said, that's going to be mine? Or do you think you live in Frankenmuth beyond this?
I think that we'll always come back to Frankenmuth, because it's a beautiful, town. And we grew up there, and so it's always good to return home, Even with the touring, because we've got a certain hub now in Nashville, because that's where our management's at, and so, it kind of feels like coming home when we're there, because, after touring and traveling all around. And then even Ohio feels kind of like home, because it's so close, and Detroit does. But, it's like, Frankenmuth's like, where the heart's at. So, we'll always go back, yeah.
Well, it's nice to know that you kind of consider Ohio home. Let's talk about Robert Plant actually came out and said he's big fans of yours. What did that mean to you?
That's really humbling for us. I mean, to get, to have, someone of that, legendary status give you, a sort of a rite of passage in any sense. And an allocation, like saying, that he likes the band, it's really humbling and inspiring, It's
Yeah. And then the whole thing, Greta Van Fleet, this was a great story, too. In case you haven't heard, you guys came up with the band name how?
Yeah, it was, we had been trying to come up with, a name for quite some time. And it's interesting that Josh thinks that bands shouldn't have a name because it's a preconception of how one might sound or define the sound. We're like, no, we need something, So we were trying to come up with a name, and we had, our first show, like, ever the next day that, and we were sitting the night prior thinking, okay, now we really need one. So, our drummer, it said that he needed to go help his grandfather cut wood for a woman in the town called Greta Van Fleet, because we're out in the country, so that's what we do in Michigan. We chop wood and stuff.
Ride snowmobiles.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, Josh kind of caught that and was like, Greta Van Fleet. Now that's a great name right there too. So
it's an actual woman's name.
Yeah, it's of Dutch origins, but she was a woman in the town, and it turns out she was kind of a matriarchal character of the town. Kind of one of the people who have been there her whole lives, and she's a musician herself. So it kind of worked out. But yeah, so we took the N out, and it became Greta Van Fleet. We did it when we were in Nijmegen in Europe, in sort of Dutch area. People were like, Greta Van Fleet. Now that's Dutch origin. Did you know that? We're like, we did, yeah. I mean, it's light of the sea or pearl of the ocean.
And how old is this woman?
She's in her early 80s.
What does she think of all this now?
Oh, she loves it. She actually came to a show. Her name was on the marquee in town. So she was getting a bunch of calls. She's like, "Are you playing Fisher Hall?" And it's like, she's like, "I hope not. I haven't practiced." I didn't. So she actually showed up to see us, and she sat through the whole 3-hour show.
Wow.
And we're a rock and roll concert, probably way too loud, and there's no such thing as way too loud, but But she came up after the show, came in backstage, and kind of gave us her blessings, and so yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, and these guys are the real deal. There's a lot of trickery that can be done in a studio. We posted a couple of the videos from today, just like 1-minute clips during choruses of the song, Safari song, and so forth, and people see for themselves that haven't seen you yet. You guys are the real deal on stage too, so congrats.
Oh, thank you.
Now to your 3, 2, 1.
All right. Hey, I'm Jake from Greta Van Fleet, and this is my 3-2-1 on 96 Rock. 3. Let's see. Let's start with 1 here.
No, it starts with 3. So 3 things that are on my band's rider.
3 things that are on my band's rider. Well, necessities. 1 is honey for Josh's voice. 2 is a bottle of Jack Daniels. Cuts the nerves, 3. Let's see. That's a good question now.
Honey and Jack Daniels. We'll stop at 2. The only necessities for rock and roll.
I suppose so. And 2. Let's see. 2 dead people I wish I could talk to. That's a good one too. You said you wrote these early in the morning. These are brilliant. Probably
2 o'clock in the morning after many, many beers.
Oh.
Jack Daniels.
That's why they're good. Dead people. I wish Jimi Hendrix probably, because I grew up. It was a big influence. Probably my first influence as a kid, and I always tried to get into the way he would think. So I have some questions for him.
Well, then a geeky guitar thing. That's why I love Yellow Ledbetter so much, because Mike McCready wrote that as an ode to Jimi Hendrix.
That's amazing too. Yeah, that, or maybe Stanley Kubrick, another big fan, or maybe Jack London too. That's our writer in there. Yeah, or Hemingway. Those are a couple. And then 1. My cure for hiccups is, I've recently figured this out. So I have to shock my system if I get hiccups. So I pour a glass of ice water and I slam it, and it's supposed to be painful, and I stop hiccuping. Yeah.
Perfect. And then at the
Jack Daniels, that's what I do,
And then at the bottom there, to plug anything you want for 90 seconds or however long you want to take.
I guess we're excited for the upcoming album that we're doing, and it's come together pretty quickly. And we scheduled a lot of time off that we actually took off from touring, and that's all we want to do is get a full-length album. And we've been so busy, that we released Black Smoke Rising, and then the demand was so high, and we wanted to get more music out. So we told them we need to go in the studio and at least do 4 more. So we took 1 week, did 4 more songs, and connected it with Black Smoke Rising and Made From the Fires. We said we need a month. Give us a month, and we put the album together. And now we're in the very end of the process, where we actually took off touring to get it done. So I think there's a lot of maturity and certainly a lot of evolution of playing live for a full year and growing as musicians. That kind of comes off. There's a lot of stuff on the album that we had previously recorded that didn't make the cut for an album, and so we actually re-recorded all of it, and then we're on the very end of it.
That's Jake, and that's Cincinnati, and we love Greta Van Fleet on 96 Rock.
All right, thank you for having me.